Dave Popkin, WBGO Studios. The centennial of Miles Davis' birth is May 26th, and all year, a variety of artists are holding tributes, including Marcus Miller, Emmett Cohen, Branford Marsalis, and Terence Blanchard, and my guest, who is a legendary pianist who played with Davis himself. He's a Grammy Award winner. John Beasley has launched a 14-city international tour entitled Unlimited Miles, Miles Davis at 100. It lands at Birdland for a residency this week. John, we really appreciate you joining us.
It's good to be here with you, Dave.
This is a bold undertaking. I understand you're playing stuff from a wide swath of Miles' career, many decades. You're 4 cities in right now. You're in Kansas City as we speak and record this. How's the tour going?
It's going great. It's going great. From the very first night, the spirit was just this unbelievable. Everybody's so amped to pay tribute and to play this music. And frankly, we're playing tunes that even Miles didn't really play on the road that much. So, and it's all from records that all of us love. We're very inspired by and. Yeah, man, it's a dream come true. It's almost, for me, you know, it's almost it's almost like getting to play with Miles again in a way. It's kind of the way I'm looking at it because, frankly, I was there for, about a year, even less than a year. And to be able to kind of pay tribute again like that has been really heartwarming.
You'll be involved in a variety of Miles and John Coltrane celebrations this year, big bands, orchestras, solo piano. But to your point, is it fair to say that this current sextet is the closest that people can come to right now to seeing Miles live?
I guess you could say that. I can't say that, but yeah, yeah, we're hoping, I mean, we're playing Moon Dreams from Birth of the Cool and segueing, you know, 20 years later into Sanctuary, right? Bitches Brew. And then jumping another, 15 years or so, The Man with the Horn with Fat Time. So that's kind of how we're looking at it. Like a dream in a way, not being academic or evolutionary in a way. It's about sort of mashing this whole essence of Miles up together with using material from all over the place. It's really fun.
So it's 1989, you get the call, you go out on the road with Miles and that band. What kind of material was he playing at that time?
We were playing mostly music from Tutu and Mandela. Couple things from We Want Miles. Uh, um, we're playing FE, we're doing that too. But yeah, that's mostly what it was. Um, and just to be able to comp for him. I mean, from the keyboard standpoint, a lot of it was parts driven by then, sort of like an R&B gig, if you will. Um, but then there'd be these long vamps, and I learned a lot, about sort of building solos and comping, getting out of his way. And he had this way. He never said anything, but whenever he would play, the whole band would just shoom, you know. We were if our earballs could be glued to him like eyeballs, that's what it was. And I'd get off tour for a break and go play with other musicians, and I could hear everything.
It's a great education for sure. And I saw you quoted somewhere some years ago talking about playing in that band, and they wanted you to play less with your left hand, right? And just play with your right hand so that everybody else could kind of play off of you.
Yeah, he said, don't use your left hand when you're soloing, because piano players do that. We answer ourselves. We kind of comp for ourselves sometimes. And his whole thing was that, well, you're not leaving any room for the guitar player or the drummer or the bass player to do anything. And he likes bass. And if you check it out from I don't want to say read, but almost Wynton Kelly, Herbie, Chick, Keith. From that point, they either played locked like this, but it wasn't like this, or they played single line, you know? So that's how he evolved his piano players.
Absolutely. And to your other point from a moment ago, you talked about how he kind of abandoned all the material that made him popular in the 50s and the 60s and would go for it and just play the 80s records and the 90s records and no matter what people thought. And I just felt like it was so brave. Like throughout his whole career, he did what he wanted.
Yeah. 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 And it was like, man, you couldn't wait for the next Miles record to come out to see what it was going to be, you know? And I just worked with Marcus Miller and we reimagined Tutu and Amanda with the Metropole Orchestra,
Hmm.
all writing this stuff, right? And uh, he told us at rehearsal one day, you know, he figured that if we weren't creating controversy, if he wasn't creating controversy with Tutu and Amanda, then he wasn't doing his job. It's cool.
He was right.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that you'll be at Birdland all week, and I saw some of the players that you have with you, and this is a killer band. So not only are you in New York, but you're in New York with Sean Jones and Kurt Rosenwinkel and Terry on Gully and Ben Williams, and I've seen like Marcus Strickland and Mark Turner in the group intermittently over the first few shows here. That's got to get your juices flowing just to play with guys like that, right?
Oh man, that's what I meant. The spirit is on a high level. We want to be in that spirit where we're all listening and reacting and but also playing with space, you know. And yeah, I'm learning. I learn from these guys all the time, man. If I'm listening, man, and getting out of myself, getting out of the way of myself, then I know that I feel like I fit in, you know. So,
I,
that's
I
the
feel like
key.
that's the key to art sometimes is just kind of getting out of your own head and letting it flow. Just being in the moment.
Each
Yeah.
other. They're
But
supportive of me, and of each other, they're it feels like a real band already. Yeah.
am I understanding this correctly that about a month after your Blue Note Tokyo stand, which is coming up in April, you'll release an album and DVD of those shows like immediately, like within 30 days? Is that right?
No, we're gonna do a live record for Mac Avenue Records, and that'll be released like in late January or February. But we're also filming a concert for Mezzo and Arte TV in Europe and France, and that'll be released on Miles's birthday,
Got
and
it.
then re-released when the record comes out early next year. Yeah.
Have you cloned yourself? Because I saw that you have a new record coming out as well, of your stuff with the SWR Big Band, Invisible Piano. I heard the single, the James Taylor cover, Fire and Rain. That's coming out soon, right?
That's coming out soon. Um, there's two covers on it, but the gist of the record actually is uh, uh, it being. I was at the Stats Gallery in Stuttgart, and I was overwhelmed by this Max Ernst painting and other paintings too. So I sang ideas into my phone, took it home, made sketches out of it, and I was asked to improvise by the SWR Radio Orchestra on a piano and then orchestrate and take it back. So, but I got introduced to the Steinway Spirio piano, which will not only record the data but the audio, right? So I was able to take the data from these long sort of improvisations and sort of chop it up, if you will, edit it into form, and then take that data, put it in music notation software so I could actually see what I wrote and then manipulate so that the orchestra may play my piano parts, right? Or they accompany me. I could take the piano totally out, just have the orchestra play. So it was really cool. And then I take it back to Stuttgart to the studio, and I'm conducting the band, and the Spirio there is playing my original piano parts at the same time. So it's like a ghost piano, you know. So it's an interesting project.
It's amazing. Instead of sketches of Spain, it's sketches from Stuttgart.
Haha, that's good.
You're widely known as an interpreter and an acolyte and a fan of Thelonious Monk, and you've done those Monkestra albums and have played that material a lot. Grammy nominated, Grammy winning records. When you get through this centennial year and all these projects that you have piled up, do you think you'll get back to that at some point?
The Orchestra,
Yeah.
yeah, that's always there, you know. The band is still we're still together. We don't work as much as we used to. Just also because economically it's just very hard to tour with a big band, you know. But we usually do a few concerts in October around his birthday, you know. And actually, the president of the label that we were on, Mac Avenue, said to me the other day, you know, you got to keep that thing going, man.
Let's talk about one other guy that you worked with, Walter Becker. What would you want people to know about him as a musician and as a person?
Well, if you know, in a way, Steely Dan and Miles kind of they both had this mystique about them, right?
Mhm.
You know, before I met Walter, I was always curious about those guys too, you know. But he was a bebopper to the core. That's really what he was. But a great lyricist and a great musical mind. Um, a lot of those left curves, left turns in their music, that's from Walter, and a lot of those crazy, not crazy, but super intelligent lyrics, you know, and modulations out of nowhere. A lot of that is coming from Walter Becker. Um, both those guys are the most intelligent people I've ever been around, you know, and cutting, you know, you don't want to be you know, in an argument with those guys. They will shred you to pieces, you know, in a humorous way, you know. I was actually, I don't know how much time you have, but I was working with Walter Becker on Flying Cowboys, Ricky Lee Jones record, when I got the call to work with Miles. And my wife was pregnant. You know, we had just kind of gotten into a new house in the valley, in LA. And, I was starting to do studio work, and I'm in the studio with Walter Becker, Chuck Rainey, Dean Parks, um, you know, uh, uh, great drummers, who's his name? Anyway,
Russ
and
Kunkel?
Ricky. No, not Russ Kunkel. The other guy that plays really creative and weird drum sets. I can never remember his name. Anyway,
Yeah.
fantastic drummer. Um, And so the next day I walk in and say, I got this call that I might have to leave. I was being humble. I said, I don't really know if I should or not. My wife's pregnant, and all this. They basically pushed me out of the door. Walter said, man, no, you got to do that. And of course, I've been waiting my whole life to do that gig. Of course, I wanted to, but yeah. So yeah, I was in the studio with those guys, and bef a couple weeks in, Walter called me and he had this imprint on Windham Hill Jazz. And he's producing jazz records. And he said, well, I want to sign you. So I went on the road with Miles and wrote all this material for those first two records while I was on the way. They sound a lot like, you know, they're very inspired by those two records, Amanda and Tutu. And yeah, so I owe Walter a lot, you know. He was a huge mentor for me. Mm.
Hanging with geniuses. Amazing. Before I let you go, as you get out there and you play these Miles songs for people in a live setting, um, what's the reaction been like? Like not just with applause and stuff, but like as you talk to people and as you travel around and give these songs a new life. Like what have people said to you?
People comment on the flow, the show flow, how we're kind of darting in and out of eras and sort of making it all in one. Well, they also comment on the interplay. There's lots of sort of open interplay that's really nice, you know.
Well, I wish you continued good luck with it. So glad that you're doing it and look forward to seeing you out there on the road soon. We appreciate all the time.
Thank you, Dave. Going to be able to pop in?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. See you all there.
All
Thank
right.
you for this.
Very good. That's the great John Beasley joining us here on WBGO.